Hey everyone, Happy New Year. It is Ayana, your life coach. And today I'm here to do a different kind of video, a video that is about what is going on in our country. And I wanted to issue a warning as well as also give some hope. Okay, so stay with me till the end. And I also have like a really wise message for my dad at the end that really helped to inspire me in this time. So those of you who follow me or who know me personally know that it's no secret that what's going on in the United States right now is really overwhelming for me, right? I have been involved in activism and community organizing my whole life. And the fact that Donald Trump is our president is kind of one of my worst nightmares, to be honest. And part of what is so troubling about this time is that, Donald Trump says things that are really outlandish. He's surrounding himself with people who are racist, Nazi sympathizers, and just kind of like bold and out loud about it. Like, we've had racism in politics. That's not new. And we've had discrimination and oppression in politics. But there was a time where they started covering it up or trying to act like they weren't, right? But now the mask is off and you can just do whatever you want to do, right? And the most troubling of this for me right now is the inauguration and Elon Musk. Number one, because Elon Musk is a billionaire who was not elected by the people to be involved in government, but is going to be involved in there anyway, right? So the fact that we have this business owner just so deeply embedded into government is outrageous and nuts. But then also his background, right? He comes from South African apartheid family that grew wealthy under that oppressive system. His family were Nazi sympathizers and moved there because they wanted to be a part of that apartheid community, right? And they enriched themselves heavily off of that. And then now we have this guy on Inauguration Day, which, by the way, also happened to be Dr. King Day in the US. This man gets on stage and does 2 Nazi salutes. I mean, what's happening? I was like, in the United States in 2025, this is what we're doing. We're getting on stage at a presidential inauguration and we are making a Nazi salute? What is happening? Now, there are a lot of people who will say that it was an awkward gesture that, looked Nazi-ish, but maybe wasn't, right? If you look at it side by side, and I don't know how exactly I will get that clip in there. If you look at it side by side, it's terrifying with the real thing. So I will either splice that in, add a link in the description so you can see it or something. I'll find a way to get that video in here. It's terrifying. And that happened on Dr. King Day, on inauguration, presidential election in the United States in 2025. That they were supporting, right? And there's so many other, like I shared another video that goes down the breakdown of why Black artists should not have supported him and should not have played at his inauguration. And people, right now what's going on in this country is a campaign of gaslighting, to be quite frank. And it's a campaign of not truth-telling and a campaign of whitewashing history. People are downplaying how bad January 6th was. People are downplaying like the effect, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. People are downplaying like, what's going to happen with immigrants. People are downplaying. This man wants to get rid of the so-called vermin, the immigrants, right? And this is language that Hitler used when talking about the Jews. And this is terrifying because this is how it starts. It starts with dehumanizing language. In every area where we've seen genocide, whether it was in Rwanda in the 90s, it started with dehumanizing language. And the more and more you dehumanize a group, the easier it becomes to have violence and oppression against those groups. This is a terrifying development. Same thing for women, right? All kinds of dehumanizing, misogynistic language during the campaign. And we have to fight back. It's terrifying, quite frankly. So the first thing that we need to do is we have to stay informed, right? If you are somebody who just doesn't feel like, okay, well, maybe he said some crazy things, but there's no way that he can actually do those things or that he's actually going to like take it to the level of Nazis, what the Nazis and extermination and genocide. Do your historical research because sadly, a lot of this is following in the fascist playbook and handbook. And he has unprecedented power, right? He has control over Congress. He has control over the executive branch. He put into place his people in the Supreme Court. There's nobody, like all of these three branches are supposed to check each other, and now they're not. They don't have to. This is terrifying. And we've seen what the Supreme Court will do in these cases as well. It's really a terrifying setup and situation. And so the most important thing I want everyone to do is, if you're not sure about the history, go look it up. People have written books about this. People have written books about the comparisons between him and other fascists. Take a look, know the history so you can see what's happening as a major, major red flag. This is a terrifying time. And then the second thing we have to do is get support, right? Get support for our mental health. And this is where my conversation with my dad comes in, because, I think it's critical, as much as I'm a news junkie and I want to be informed about what's going on, I also know that I need balance. I also know that I need to protect my mental health and my peace. So I try to set timers for myself, right? I give myself X amount of time to consume the news and feel sad about it. I give myself permission to feel all those feelings. I don't try to push them away and act like they're not there or real or valid. And then after I mourn, I try to think about what it is that I can do about it, right? Like, is there an organization that I can go support? Is there a meeting coming up that I can support? Is there a protest? There was a really empowering and powerful bunch of protests that happened during his inauguration weekend. And that made me feel really connected to people, right? In a world where people are downplaying Elon Musk's Nazi salute, in a world where people are, downplaying Trump and saying, oh, he's just talking, he's not really going to do it. In a world where there's people are normalizing this behavior and acting like, his charges got dropped and all of these things are just normal, which they're not. Being surrounded by people who have your back and support you is going to be critical to your mental health and peace. And then taking action is going to be really important too, right? Getting involved. And if you message me, if you need contacts, if you need support, if you need to find out, I don't know every location, but I do know in the Bay Area some great groups that can help, right? Being connected with people who think like you is going to be so amazing. It helps you to not feel isolated, and most importantly, despair. And despair is the biggest thing that is the issue here, right? Because all of this is so overwhelming. Like, I could damn near cry doing this video right now. But despair, yes, we have to feel our feelings, but we don't want to sink into chronic hopelessness, because that's what they're counting on. They are counting on us not taking action and not fighting back. And my dad told me a story about a woman when he was growing up, when Reagan was elected. A woman who committed suicide after Ronald Reagan was elected in his building that he knew. And it was devastating, right? And I can understand that. I can understand that level of despair and hopelessness. It just feels like, people, and also too, especially with Donald Trump, because it feels so overwhelming that people elected him into this position. Last time he wasn't popularly elected, and that was a big saving grace. This time he was. And that's a hard thing to wrap my mind around, right? And so there have been times where I wanted to sink into despair, but I also remember what Dr. King said, right? This goes back to why Dr. King's legacy was so important. And I think about the civil rights movement. I think about, women's suffrage movement. I think about slavery, right? The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. That's what Dr. King said. And even though it can feel like there's no way we'll get around this, we have survived a lot in this country, and people have made it through. Now, did that mean the road was easy? Absolutely not, right? Civil rights, unfortunately, a lot of people died, and there was a lot of injustice that happened to get to that moment, right? It was a lot of hard work, and it took a long time, and not everybody made it to the finish line, right? And same thing with slavery, right? It took hundreds of years, and sadly, hopefully, it doesn't take that long here, but you have to not sink into despair, right? So protect your mental health so you don't, because just remember, together, if we unite together, we can overcome this. We can be stronger. We can support each other with our mental health and well-being when we feel down. We can support each other when we see a neighbor that ICE raids are coming to try to take away our neighbor. We can support each other when we see that a neighbor is struggling, or that you yourself are struggling with, like an unwanted pregnancy or a pregnancy that you can't afford, and you have like people beating down your door trying to take away your rights to abortion. We can come together and support each other. We can come together and support each other when I and my friends are experiencing police brutality because of the color of our skin, right? These are the areas where we can support each other and support our neighbors. We have power over so much more than we think we do. We have power over helping out in our communities in big ways, helping our neighbors, donating money to causes that are important to us, volunteering our time, showing up at protests, like being there for people who are getting deported, and for all of those unconstitutional things that he's trying to do, right? That people are fighting back against, thank goodness, right? We can come together. Let's not sink into despair. And so with that message, I hope that, hopefully, I know that we as humans will get through this. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. And let's just stick together. Let's not let these big wigs, by the way, we all have a common enemy, right? I've been hearing a lot of divisive language on social media, people pointing fingers and people saying, fuck around and find out, right? Like that some people, if you voted for Donald Trump, now listen, if you voted for Donald Trump, also same thing, for workers' rights too, right? They're going to be coming for our workers' rights. The pay is probably going to get a lot less. Like I, as a teacher, could lose my job. Who knows? But we have to be there to support each other, right? And let's not point fingers, because that's what they want us to do, right? Divided, we are conquerable. But if we come together, we will be okay. Now, this is what they knew during the Black Power movement. The Black Panthers worked with the Brown Berets and worked with like Asian groups as well. We all need to support each other in this time. Let's not point fingers at each other. Let's all come together and support each other, because that's the only way that we will be able to make this work. All right? We got this.